Listen to this story about David and Goliath, taken from 1 Samuel chapter 17. Try and remember as much as you can. There'll be some questions about it at the end. In Bethlehem, there lived an old man called Jesse, who had 8 sons. At the time, Saul was king of Israel, waging war against the fearsome Philistines, who were constantly invading Israelite territory. Every Israelite man felt it was his duty to fight, and Jesse's 3 eldest sons had gone to join Saul's army. They had been away for several weeks, and Jesse had heard nothing. One day, he packed some grain and bread for them, and 10 cheeses as a gift for their commander. He gave these to his youngest son, David, to take to the battlefield. "Bring me word from your brothers," the old man urged. Now David was just a young shepherd boy, but he rose early the next morning and set off alone to the front line in the valley of Elah. He reached the army camp and his brothers just as the Israelites were marching onto the battlefield, preparing to fight the many rows of Philistines opposite them, yelling war cries. It was terrifying to see and hear. Suddenly, something even more frightening happened. The Philistine ranks parted, and an enormous warrior came striding out from among them, taller than David had ever dreamed was possible. He wore huge, heavy armor and carried a massive bronze javelin and shield.
"Why are you Israelites all lined up before me?"
the giant bellowed.
"I challenge you to send just one to fight me, Goliath of Gath, and if you win, we will all bow down before you."
He threw back his head and roared, and the Philistines smashed their spears against their shields in thunderous applause. At that, the Israelite soldiers retreated. David was shocked. Who is this man that a whole army runs from him in fear? Soldiers around him explained that this had been going on for several days. David was even more indignant. "He's putting us all to shame," he exclaimed. It didn't take long for news of the bold boy to reach King Saul. Saul wanted to see the little shepherd for himself and called David before him. To the king's great surprise, David volunteered to take up the giant's challenge and fight him. "I've fought and killed bears and lions before, who have attacked my sheep," countered David, "and I shall kill this Philistine just the same. God will protect me." Something about David's strength of faith convinced King Saul, and he agreed to let the shepherd boy try. He insisted on giving David his own armor to wear, but it was so big and bulky that David couldn't move in it, so had to take it off. King Saul and his army watched in amazement as David strode out to meet the giant warrior with just his staff, his slingshot, and 5 smooth stones in his shepherd's pouch. Goliath couldn't believe his eyes when he saw David marching towards him. He thought it must be a joke and roared with laughter. "I come to you in the name of the Lord," David cried. "This day he will deliver you into my hand, and all the Philistines will tremble before him." Then the giant bellowed with fury and rushed towards David, preparing to deliver a death blow with his javelin. The shepherd boy stood firm. David reached into his pouch and took out a stone. He put it in his slingshot, whirled it around, and let it fly. The stone hit the huge warrior in the middle of his forehead. It halted him in his tracks, and he crashed to the ground, dead. Then, as King Saul and his army rushed onto the battlefield cheering, David drew Goliath's sword and cut off his head in one blow. And the Philistines turned and fled, leaving the Israelites triumphant. So now, 10 questions to test your memory. Question 1. What was David's father's name? And that was Jesse. Question 2. Where did Jesse live? And he lived in Bethlehem. Question 3. Where was the Israelite army camped? They were camped in Elah. Question 4. Where was Goliath from? Goliath was from Gath. Question 5. What was Goliath carrying when he challenged the Israelites? Goliath was carrying a bronze javelin and shield. Question 6. What did the Israelites do when Goliath challenged them? And under the pressure of Goliath, the Israelites retreated. Question 7. Why didn't David wear King Saul's armor? And that was because it was too big and bulky for the small boy. Question 8. Besides his slingshot and a pouch of stones, what did David carry when he went out to face Goliath? And David also took his staff. Question 9. How many shots did David take to kill Goliath? And it just took him 1 shot. And question 10. What did the Philistines do when Goliath died? And after their hero was dead, the Philistines fled. And that is the story of David and Goliath from 1 Samuel chapter 17.